What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Yammy Noob, and today we are taking a look at the brake situation on this here ZX6R. For those of you who know, this motorcycle was bought used with some miles on the clock, and we wanted to show you what you need to do when you buy a motorcycle like this so that you can refresh it and ride it like a brand new motorcycle. And today we got a big old jug of brake fluid, and we are going to address the braking situation on this motorcycle. Now, before we dive in and show you how to do the brakes, let's kick this out to the road and see what it's like to ride with bad brake fluid in your motorcycle.
Alrighty, ladies and germs, pulling away here on the ZX6 to give you an idea of what a fluid full of, I'm gonna assume probably 2-year-old fluid feels like. Just watch the braking performance on this motorcycle. That on this bike should have towed me down way faster. This motorcycle, the feeling through this lever is nothing short of numb. You really can't feel what the brakes are doing. They still work, obviously, but because there's less fluid in the reservoir, and that fluid has bonded with water and reacted with sunlight, it just doesn't feel very good in the hand of the rider. The same deal with the rear brake lever. It doesn't really tell you what's going on so much. You'll also notice that when I have to grab the brakes going around this corner here, that I end up having to pull the lever in a lot farther, and a lot of times people will compensate for this for a lack of good brake fluid by throwing their lever out farther so that it doesn't bottom out as they're trying to brake. That kind of works. It's not actually a solution though, because you're just putting a band-aid on the problem. You're not addressing the actual problem in and of itself. So I really should be getting a lot more braking performance out of this lever. I know for a fact that the Nissan setup on here is a solid sport suspension, and it's just feeling adequate right now at the best. Now, don't get me wrong, you are still going to be able to lock this lever up if you're ham-fisted. It's still plenty brakes. It's not like it's not going to work. That is more of an issue if you have, for example, a lot less fluid in your reservoir. However, one thing I would like to point out is this is a sport bike, right? It's ostensibly going to spend its life going around a racetrack, not like this, but like this, right? What happens if you go like this and that reservoir, which pulls in from the top side, now is starting to suck air? You're going to pull air into that line, and that is going to result in you losing brake pressure when you need it, because guess what? Air doesn't work in a brake line. So it is super important, especially on a motorcycle that you're going to use in a performance capacity, that you are taking care of the fluid in this reservoir. And speaking of taking care of it, let's get this motorcycle back in the shop and finally fix this limp, squishy lever.
Alrighty guys, so as you know, brake fluid ages with use. There's a lot of things that cause brake fluid to go bad over time. It's how you ride your motorcycle. Do you brake super aggressively like at the track? That adds heat. This stuff reacts with heat. It reacts with air. It reacts with water. Basically, anything you do to your brakes, it's going to cause this fluid to go bad over time. Even just sitting still in one of these clear containers out in the sun will cause this stuff to age and turn a lovely pea-colored brown. It's no good. This fluid, basically, you need to change it every 2 years, the manual says. I actually end up changing it closer to every 9 to 6 months on my motorcycle, just because I like looking down and seeing some nice crystal clear fluid. And this stuff is not expensive and the process is not hard. Now, let's get this bike up on the lift and I'm gonna show you the process for replacing this fluid here. Now, for those of you out there who are thinking that you're going to try bleeding your brakes for the first time and looking at this setup and being like, wow, I don't have a lift, I don't have a tool wall, I don't have any of this fancy stuff, you really don't need it. This is a job that you can get done with some plastic tubing, like an 8mm wrench, and just a Starbucks cup that you have floating around. That's all you need to get this job done. It really doesn't take much effort. I've done it laying on the ground before. I just have it up on a lift because it's a lot easier for me to work and have us film it at the same time. And then on this motorcycle, there are more points to bleed than you might have on your motorcycle. You want to take a look at both of your calipers up front. If you have only one, just the one caliper up front. You have your caliper in the back. And then on this motorcycle, because it's got a fancy master cylinder, you do need to bleed it at the master cylinder. If it's got a bleeder valve, you should bleed it. I mean, it's just better to get everything than have some just crappy fluid in there that's potentially causing your new fluid to go bad even faster. So if it's got a bleeder valve, just bleed it. It really doesn't take all that long, and I'm gonna show you the process here right now. Alrighty guys, so the process for bleeding brakes is very simple, but it kind of requires 3 hands to do it. So let me walk you through the way it works. Now, what you need to do is you need to have, I have this uncapped, but a lot of times I see people cap it so that it doesn't, cause fluid to splooge out of here while you're working. That's why I have all this bibbing going on. Now, what you need to do is you need to take a wrench. On this bike, it's a 10mm, and you go to the bleeder valve here. You crack it open just a little bit, and then you squeeze the brakes, and you see fluid coming out of that hose. With the brakes still depressed, close the nut. Don't wrench it tight, just close it and then release the brake. Open it, squeeze the brake, keep it squeezed, close it, release the brake. Open, squeeze, close, release. Open, squeeze, close, release. And you just do that over and over and over and over and over and over until the fluid that's coming out of here isn't that nasty maple syrup dehydrated pea color, and it comes out nice and clear. Now, while you're doing your little process of open, squeeze, close, release down there, you need to be adding brake fluid to this reservoir so you don't pull air into the brake system. If you pull air into the brake system, you need to work it out. So I recommend every 5 to 6 pumps just coming up here and pouring a little bit of brake fluid into that reservoir to bring it back up to the top. And yes, for those chemists at home, you are mixing this stuff, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna bleed all the nasty fluid out of here. This is gonna take some repetition. It's not exactly a fast process, but you are gonna get this nasty fluid out of here, and eventually, in this little tube, you won't see brown fluid, you'll see clear fluid. And that's how you know you're done with this. So I'm just gonna keep trucking away until we start seeing clear fluid in there. Alrighty guys, so I have just the smell of nasty old brake fluid coming at me out of this can. It really stinks in here. And if you're wondering if you can overbleed the brakes or if there's any use to keeping brake fluid around, no, there is no point keeping it. Once you open this, it's like a glass of milk that you just leave sitting in the fridge. It'll last a little while, but you really need to be using fresh fluid every time because this stuff reacts with water in the atmosphere. Okay. So the last thing you want to do is just tighten this bolt, but you don't want to go like freaking Hulk mode on this. You just want it to be nudged tight because this isn't going to back itself out. So nudge it tight and then, you know, just a little. There you go, and you're done. So the last thing I'm gonna bleed on this before I move to the rear brake is the master cylinder, which really should take like 1 or 2 pumps, and then we're done. But in this motorcycle, what happens is it goes from the master cylinder to the left caliper, then up over to the right caliper. That means that the right caliper, despite being physically closer to the front brake, is actually farther from it. As a result, that means I'm pushing clean fluid a lot faster through this caliper because it's already sitting here. So I actually already have clean fluid in this little pipe right here. As you can see, it's looking nice and transparent. I mean, that's exactly what you want your fluid to look like. And if I do any more cranks on this, I'm not going to see a change in the color because it's already got clean fluid going to it. So start at your farthest away point and then work towards your nearest point. Ugh. The smell. I don't want to put this near my face, but I know I need to for the thumbnail. But just like getting that shot is gonna be perfect. But that is, like, that is some serious maple syrup grade color right there. You actually are probably getting a better vantage here than anywhere else. So yeah, you can see this is a column of just clean fluid all through here. Yeah. So this is usually an unnecessary step, but I like to do it just because I can. Alrighty guys, if you have any wonder how nasty this brake fluid stuff is, it is literally eaten through the thumbs of my gloves because the material has gotten thinner. Brake fluid is not to be played with, so I'm actually gonna go wash my hands really fast, and I'm gonna grab some isopropyl alcohol to put on the bike in spots where this may have touched some plastic or paint, just to get it off of there. Alrighty guys, so a lot of times your rear brake reservoir can actually be pulled from the motorcycle and just sit free like this. If this is the case, this job is extra easy. Literally, all you gotta do is just take your little cap off your catch can here. Let's take this little cap off, smush this all back into place, and then whoop, there you go, job done. Now just add a little bit more fluid in there. Alrighty guys, so with all that being done, the brakes are now bled on this motorcycle. I can feel just standing still how much improved they feel. There's a lot more just resistance in the lever. They're not spongy. I have a feeling that it's actually going to be a little bit shocking how much of an improvement this is because it's a super sport style brake setup. But there's only one way to test it out. Let's get it out on the road, see how it feels.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are out here on the ZX6R with its freshly bled brakes coming into a stop. And let me tell you something, guys. Bleeding your brakes makes a huge difference in the stopping performance of your motorcycle. It's literally night and day on this bike. So it was tough to see before, mostly because the way that GoPro lenses work is they flatten stuff out. But to feel braking pressure on this bike, I literally only have to pull the lever into there. Before, I used to have to pull it into basically about where my middle finger was on the bar when I was rolling. Huge, huge improvement in the stopping power on this bike. It's more direct, it's more progressive, it's just, all in all, it feels better. Now, bleeding brakes is something that everybody, regardless of skill level on your motorcycle, it's something that you should be able to do yourself. When I'm just bleeding brakes on my own, I can usually get the job done in half an hour, maybe a little bit less, if I'm moving really efficiently, like on my KTM, which only has one brake caliper. It's mega easy. It's a job that everybody should be able to do. No matter what kind of bike you're rolling around on, no matter what your skill level on said motorcycle, you need to be able to bleed your own brakes. Because you don't want to have to take it to a shop for every little thing. And if you're going to learn to start wrenching on your motorcycle, a brake bleed is one of, if not the easiest places to start. All you got to do is just remember lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, and when you're going righty-tighty on these bolts here, just don't go mega Hulk mode. You just need to snug them down. Good and tight is all you need. So, with all of that being said, remember, if you want to get yourself entered to win this ZX6R right here, click the link down in the description below, get yourself signed up, and I'm gonna enjoy this freshly bled brake system a little bit more on this nice twisty road. I'm probably going to infuriate a lot of people because I'm not going very fast, but I don't know, this is how I enjoy a twisty road, guys. Don't judge me. I'll see y'all in the next one.